The rap industry is the only place where you can go from flipping burgers to buying a Lamborghini in the same year, and then right back to flipping burgers a few years later. Rappers love to flaunt wealth and fans love to believe it's endless, but behind the chains, rented mansions, and stacks of prop money, the truth is much darker. We've already gone through some of the biggest meltdowns in part 1, rappers who burned through tens of millions, who lost it all to the IRS, or who ended up homeless after chart-topping careers. You'd think their stories would be enough of a warning, but nah, every new generation proves the cycle never ends. A hot record, a viral moment, some fast money, and before long, it's gone. That's why we're back with part 2 of rappers that went insanely broke. This time we're covering clout chasers who bragged their way into bankruptcy, legends who lost fortunes to bad choices, and artists who went from world tours to prison cells. Some of these names you already know, others will surprise you, but every one of them has one thing in common. They had it all and then lost it. So buckle up, because if you thought the stories in part 1 were insane, this list takes it even further. Let's start with the rainbow-haired internet troll who thought money and clout made him untouchable. Tekashi 6ix9ine. There's a long history of rappers talking tough and losing everything, but few did it as loudly or as quickly as Tekashi 6ix9ine. At his peak, Tekashi was the most talked about rapper alive. He was trolling everyone, from gang members to music legends, and cashing in on the chaos. He signed multi-million-dollar deals, bought watches and chains that looked like cartoon props, and bragged about spending millions just to stay icy. For a while, the streams justified it. His videos were pulling in hundreds of millions of views. He was everywhere, but Tekashi's empire was built on a house of cards. When the feds hit him with racketeering charges in 2018, everything collapsed overnight. The checks stopped, but the bills didn't. His expensive security detail, his fleet of cars, his legal fees, it all drained his accounts. By the time he got out, the industry had moved on. Labels didn't want him, clubs didn't want the liability, entire countries literally banned him from performing. His 2020 comeback album Tattletales sold a fraction of what people expected, and the hype machine sputtered out. Then came the humiliation. In court, Tekashi admitted he was broke. He told a judge he couldn't even cover basic expenses. This is a guy who once dropped $95,000 on a spinning diamond chain shaped like a jigsaw piece. Now he was begging the court for leniency because his money had dried up. The final nail was his vacation flexing. Tekashi started posting pictures from Cuba and the Dominican Republic, holding stacks of cash, but fans quickly noticed the bills didn't even match local currency. The flex was fake and the money wasn't real. The internet roasted him, and it became clear Tekashi had gone from the king of New York to a clown act barely scraping by overseas. Today he still books occasional shows in smaller markets, but he's no longer the untouchable troll he once was. His jewelry gone, his cars gone, his hype gone. Tekashi 6ix9ine proved the world's loudest flexer can also end up the world's loudest broke rapper. Lil Pump. If Tekashi was the king of trolling, Lil Pump was the king of reckless flexing. In 2017, he dropped Gucci Gang, a song that somehow became one of the biggest hits of the year despite being shorter than most TikToks. Pump was suddenly everywhere. He signed what was reported as an $8 million record deal, and for a moment it looked like he was set for life. But instead of turning that into a career, Lil Pump turned it into a circus. He blew through money like it was Monopoly cash. Lamborghini after Lamborghini, diamond chains shaped like Pokemon characters, designer clothes he'd wear once just to flex on Instagram. He even bragged in interviews that he didn't care about money. It came in so fast he thought it would never stop. The problem? The music stopped hitting. After his Harvard Dropout album flopped in 2019, Pump's streams cratered. His new singles barely moved numbers. The label deal fizzled, and suddenly the money faucet was off, but the lifestyle still running full blast. By 2021, the IRS came knocking with a lien for $1.6 million in unpaid taxes. This was while he was still posting stacks of cash and exotic cars online. Nothing screams broke like flexing money while the government is waiting to seize it. And then came the infamous Trump rally moment. Pump showed up to endorse Donald Trump, only to get called Little Pimp by the president himself.
And speaking of sound, music, and other things, one of the big superstars of the world, Little Pimp.
That clip went viral, but not for the reasons Pump wanted. Instead of being seen as a rap star, he became a political punchline. Since then, Pump's career has been on life support. His Instagram still shows off jewelry and cars, but fans don't buy it anymore. The comments are full of people clowning him for faking his lifestyle. His shows, smaller venues, his streams, embarrassing compared to his peak. Lil Pump isn't homeless, but compared to the hype he had in 2017, his fall has been brutal. He's a perfect example of of what happens when a rapper mistakes hype for a career. The bag was real, but the spending was even realer. And when the music stopped paying, Pump became just another broke rapper clinging to old clout. Mystikal's career should have been legendary. He had the voice, the hits, the southern cosigns, and a lane that nobody else could touch. Shake Ya Ass, Danger, Bounce Back. He was everywhere in the early 2000s. For a while, he looked like he'd be a staple of hip-hop for decades. Instead, Mystikal's story became one of the ugliest falls in rap history. The trouble started in 2004 when he was convicted of sexual assault and extortion. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison, 6 years at the peak of his career. By the time he got out, the industry had moved on. Southern rap was still thriving, but Mystikal was no longer part of it. He tried to make a comeback, he did features, popped up on stage, and even linked back up with Cash Money for a short time, but the momentum never returned. His reputation was in ruins and his money was gone, eaten up by years of legal battles, prison time, and no touring. But instead of stabilizing, Mystikal made things worse. In 2012, he served more time for domestic abuse. In 2017, he was arrested again on charges. In 2022, he was charged yet again, this time with first-degree rape and kidnapping. Each arrest cost him more money in legal fees and destroyed any hope of rebuilding. By the mid-2010s, Mystikal was already admitting he was broke. He was doing small shows, living gig to gig, a far cry from platinum days. Fans who grew up on his hits were now watching him headline small-town clubs just to pay bills. Today, Mystikal isn't just broke financially, he's bankrupt reputationally. His name went from being attached to party anthems to police blotters. And while plenty of rappers waste fortunes on bad spending, Mystikal's story is worse. His own decisions erased his career and left him broke, disgraced, and forgotten. BG. Before Lil Wayne became the face of Cash Money, there was BG in the late 90s. He was one of the driving forces behind the Hot Boys, alongside Wayne, Juvenile, and Turk. His solo work, especially the 1999 album Chopper City in the Ghetto, gave the world Bling Bling, a song so influential that it added a permanent word to the English language. At the time, BG wasn't just successful, he was a cultural force, making hits and stacking money. But success in the rap game often comes with a dark side. BG struggled with drug addiction throughout his career. While Juvenile and Wayne found ways to build longevity, BG was slipping. By the mid-2000s, he was already less visible on the charts, and with less music came less money. Then came the real downfall. In 2012, BG was sentenced to 14 years in federal prison for gun possession and witness tampering. 14 years. In rap, that's essentially a lifetime. While his peers were touring, investing, and building empires, BG sat behind bars, watching his finances disappear. Prison is expensive even if you're rich. Legal fees, commissary, supporting family on the outside, it drains money fast. By the time he got out in 2023, BG wasn't coming home to stacks of royalty checks or a safety net. He was coming home to start from scratch. No mansion, no cars, no flashy chains, just his name, a fan base that still remembered him, and a rap game that had moved far beyond where he left it. He's since jumped back into the studio and has been welcomed with respect by fans and peers, but financially he's nowhere near where he should have been. From the man who invented bling to struggling to rebuild in his 40s, BG is a reminder that prison doesn't just steal your freedom, it steals your fortune too. Exhibit. Say Exhibit, and most people don't think about rap albums. They think Pimp My Ride. For years, Exhibit was the face of one of MTV's biggest shows, turning clunkers into absurd, neon-soaked rides that became a cultural phenomenon. Add that to his collaborations with Eminem and Dr. Dre, movie roles like XXX and 8 Mile, and tours around the world, and you'd think Exhibit was set financially forever. But when Pimp My Ride ended and the music slowed down, reality set in. The superstar checks stopped coming, but Exhibit kept living like the money would never end. Multiple houses, luxury cars, massive spending habits. He was still in TV host mode without the TV money to back it up. By 2009, the IRS was on his back. Reports surfaced that he owed over $900,000 in back taxes. The debt snowballed and he eventually had to file for bankruptcy twice. In one filing, he admitted he had less than $300,000 in assets while owing nearly $1 million. Even worse, his yearly income was reported at less than $70,000. Not exactly superstar money. It got uglier. Court documents revealed he couldn't even afford tuition for his child at one point. Think about that. This was the guy MTV once made a millionaire, now telling a bankruptcy judge he couldn't cover basic family expenses. To his credit, Exhibit didn't completely disappear. He still tours, acts occasionally, and does brand appearances, but his empire is gone. The fancy cars, gone. The MTV paydays, gone. He went from being the guy who pimped rides with flat screen TVs and trunks to barely being able to keep up with the IRS. Exhibit's story isn't just about mismanaging money, it's about how fame fades, but debt doesn't. He's proof that even MTV money doesn't last forever when the lifestyle costs more than the checks coming in. Redman. In hip-hop, rappers usually go broke chasing luxury. Redman is one of the rare cases where a rapper stayed broke on purpose, and it made him a legend. Back in the 90s and early 2000s, Redman was huge. Platinum albums, Def Jam checks, movie roles, and one of the best tag team runs ever with Method Man. He starred in How High, was a fixture on Def Comedy Jam, and built a reputation as one of the most unique characters in rap. By all accounts, he was making serious money, but while his peers were buying mansions in the hills and bragging about Bentleys, Redman chose something very different. Fans got their first glimpse of his lifestyle in 2001 on MTV Cribs. Instead of showing off a sprawling estate, Redman proudly walked cameras through his tiny 2-bedroom house in Newark, New Jersey. The doorbell was broken, cash was stuffed into shoeboxes, and his cousin was literally sleeping on the floor. It was hilarious, but it was also shocking. Here was a platinum-selling rapper living like a college kid. Years later, Redman admitted he never left that house. He still lives there today, even after all his success. Why? Because it's fully paid off, it keeps him grounded, and it stops him from blowing money like everyone else in rap. Redman isn't broke because he lost it, he's broke because he refused to play the image game, and to be honest, he's just acting broke, probably looking into the future. In an industry obsessed with flaunting wealth, he doubled down on being real. No fleets of cars, no marble mansions, just a modest house, a grounded mindset, and a career that's still respected decades later. That's why Redman's story is so legendary. He's a rapper who lived like he was broke forever, and in doing so, avoided the fate of so many peers who went bankrupt trying to prove they were rich. Redman turned being broke into his brand, and ironically, that might be why he's still standing strong while so many others are financially ruined. T-Pain. Few rappers have openly admitted to going broke the way T-Pain has. At his peak, T-Pain was untouchable. He had a Grammy shelf, a run of hits with everyone from Kanye West to Lil Wayne, and a stranglehold on the radio. He wasn't just making money, he was printing it. By his own count, he pulled in around $40 million during his prime, and then almost unbelievably, he lost it all. In interviews, T-Pain has confessed he spent recklessly on cars, houses, and jewelry.
The brand new McLaren, it looked like a goddamn dragon. I got a 458 Italia Ferrari and a Aventador. Fucking Lamborghini.
At one point, he owned more than 50 cars, multiple homes, and chains that looked like they belonged in a Marvel movie. His spending was outrageous, but the problem wasn't just flexing. It was also bad investments and shady business deals. Like many rappers, T-Pain trusted the wrong people to manage his money, and by the time he realized it, the damage was done. At one point, T-Pain admitted he had to borrow money just to take his kids to Burger King. Think about that. A man who dominated the charts, changed music forever with auto-tune, and collaborated with the biggest names in rap couldn't afford fast food. The IRS was on him too. Reports surfaced that he owed millions in back taxes, and with the music slowing down and the lavish lifestyle still running, there wasn't enough coming in to save him. But here's where T-Pain stands out. He didn't lie about it. He admitted everything publicly. He told the world he went from $40 million to broke. He cut back, sold off cars, downsized his lifestyle, and got back to work. He leaned into streaming, touring, and even Twitch, where he built a whole new fan base. T-Pain's honesty made fans love him even more. He's one of the few rappers who turned financial failure into a redemption story, but still, the fact that one of the most influential artists of his generation ended up broke in the middle of his career is proof of just how dangerous rap money can be when you assume it never runs out. Ja Rule. If you want a masterclass in falling from grace, look no further than Ja Rule. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Ja was unstoppable. He had hit after hit with Ashanti, chart-topping albums, and Murder Inc. was one of the most dominant labels in the industry. Ja was selling out arenas, moving millions of records, and living the superstar lifestyle. Then came 50 Cent. The beef didn't just hurt Ja's reputation, it blew a hole in his career. Almost overnight, he went from rap's hitmaker to the butt of jokes. The music slowed down, the tour shrank, and the money started drying up. But Ja still had the IRS waiting. By the mid-2000s, Ja Rule was hit with tax evasion charges, accused of owing millions in back taxes. In 2011, he was sentenced to 2 years in prison for tax evasion and gun possession. Just like that, the man who once ran the charts was sitting in a cell, watching his finances collapse. And then, when it looked like things couldn't get worse, came Fyre Festival. Ja attached his name to what was supposed to be a luxury music festival in the Bahamas. Instead, it became one of the biggest scams in entertainment history. Guests expecting villas were were given disaster tents. Gourmet meals turned out to be a single slice of cheese in a styrofoam box. The entire thing became a viral joke and Jaw's name was tied to it forever. He avoided prison time for fire, but the lawsuits piled up. Investors sued, fans sued, and Jaw reportedly faced millions in liability. His reputation was already shaky, but fire turned him into a meme. Today, Ja Rule still tours, mostly off nostalgia, but financially, he'll never be what he once was. From IRS prison time to fire festival humiliation, Ja Rule's story is one of the most complete downfalls in rap. He went from superstar to broke and became proof that sometimes the only thing worse than going bankrupt is becoming a punchline. Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill isn't just one of the greatest rappers of all time, she's one of the greatest musicians, period. With the Few G's and her solo masterpiece, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, she became a global superstar. That album sold over 20 million copies worldwide and earned her 5 Grammys in one night. Lauryn Hill was on top of the world critically, commercially, and financially, but instead of building on that success, Lauryn disappeared. After Miseducation, she stepped back from the industry almost entirely. Touring was rare, studio sessions were non-existent, and the money flow slowed to a trickle. The fame was still there, but the income wasn't. Then came the IRS. By the early 2000s and 10s, Lauryn was accused of failing to pay over $1.8 million in taxes. She argued in court that she had retreated from the industry to focus on her family and to escape its toxicity. But the IRS doesn't care about artistic integrity. They wanted their money. In 2013, Lauryn Hill was sentenced to 3 months in federal prison for tax evasion. She was also hit with fines and ordered to pay back what she owed. For a woman who once dominated the charts and outsold entire genres, the image of Lauryn in Prison Orange was shocking. Even after her release, Lauryn struggled to rebuild. She toured occasionally, but fans frequently complained about her showing up hours late to performances or cutting shows short. The magic of her peak was gone, and so was much of her money. Lauryn Hill's story is a cautionary tale. She had everything: talent, critical acclaim, commercial dominance, and lost it not through reckless spending, but by walking away from the machine that made her rich. But the IRS doesn't let anyone walk away clean. From Grammy sweeps to tax prison, Lauryn Hill is proof that even the greatest can fall flat financially. CeeLo Green. There was a moment when CeeLo Green seemed unstoppable. He'd started as part of Goody Mob, helping pioneer southern hip-hop. Then came Gnarls Barkley, where he teamed with Danger Mouse for Crazy, a song so massive it broke records worldwide and cemented him as one of the most unique voices in music. Then, as a solo artist, Forget You made him a household name. Add in his gig as a coach on The Voice, and CeeLo wasn't just a rapper anymore. He was a mainstream celebrity, pulling in millions from music, TV, and endorsements. But just as quickly as he rose, it all unraveled. Behind the scenes, CeeLo's finances were already messy. He was hit with lawsuits ranging from unpaid jewelry bills to contractor disputes. By the early 2000s and 10s, he was hemorrhaging money in settlements and payouts. Then came the scandal that tanked his career. In 2014, CeeLo faced a criminal charge for furnishing ecstasy to a woman. He avoided jail time with probation, but his reputation imploded after bizarre social media posts where he seemed to dismiss the seriousness of the case. Fans turned on him, The Voice dropped him, endorsements vanished overnight. The money stopped flowing, but the lifestyle didn't. CeeLo had become used to Hollywood checks and a high-flying image. Without The Voice money or consistent touring, he struggled to keep up. By the late 2000s and 10s, reports surfaced that he was in financial distress, and while CeeLo denied being broke, he admitted his career wasn't paying the way it used to. These days, CeeLo still performs on smaller tours and nostalgia shows, but the Grammy-winning superstar lifestyle is long gone. He went from reality TV mogul and pop culture icon to another artist scrambling to keep up. CeeLo Green is proof that sometimes all it takes is one scandal to erase millions. Bobby Shmurda. Few rappers have burned as brightly and flamed out as quickly as Bobby Shmurda. In 2014, Hot Nigga made him the hottest name in New York. The Shmoney dance went viral before TikTok even existed. Epic Records threw him a multi-million-dollar deal, and Bobby looked destined to be the city's new king. But less than 6 months later, he was arrested in a massive police raid. Hit with conspiracy and weapons charges, Bobby was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Just like that, one of rap's brightest young stars was gone. Prison didn't just take Bobby's freedom, it took his money. Legal fees drained him, the label deal evaporated, and whatever advance money he had left was gone. By the time he got out in 2021, he wasn't coming home to wealth or momentum. He was starting from zero. At first there was hype, fans welcomed him back, promoters booked shows, and Bobby looked ready to pick up where he left off. But instead of dropping hit singles, Bobby seemed more focused on partying. He admitted in interviews that he blew through millions almost immediately after release, splurging on cars, jewelry, and good times. The music didn't help. His comeback singles fell flat, streaming numbers were disappointing, and critics said he lost the energy that made him famous. Promoters backed off. By 2023, whispers started that Bobby's money was drying up. Now Bobby is still performing, but not at superstar levels. He's living proof of how one arrest can erase not just years of your life, but your entire financial future. From viral dances to nearly broke, Bobby Shmurda is one of rap's clearest examples of potential wasted and money burned. Loon. In the early 2000s, Loon looked like Bad Boy's next big star. With his smooth delivery and appearances on tracks with Usher, Ginuwine, and other artists, he was everywhere. Songs like I Need a Girl made him a recognizable name, and for a while it looked like he was gonna carve out a long career in hip-hop. But instead of growing into a superstar, Loon faded. His solo projects didn't hit the same, and by the mid-2000s, his momentum was gone. Then came a personal transformation. Loon converted to Islam, changed his name to Amir Junaid Muhadith, and walked away from the music industry altogether. Unfortunately, the story didn't end there. In 2012, Loon was arrested in Brussels and extradited to the US on drug trafficking charges. He was sentenced to 14 years in prison. Just like that, any financial stability he might have had was erased. Prison meant no touring, no recording, and legal costs that drained what was left. He was eventually released in 2020 under compassionate release during COVID-19, but by then, nearly a decade had passed. The music world had moved on, and the money was long gone. Loon admitted he was essentially starting over financially, with no safety net and no bad boy riches waiting for him.
When you lose that opportunity, you know what I'm saying, and the resources and everything that contribute to that, in my eye, that's a falling off.
Since then, he's focused on community work, speaking engagements, and staying out of the spotlight. Spiritually, he seems grounded, but financially, his rap career ended in ruins. For someone who once stood next to the most famous rappers in the world, Loon's fall is one of the starkest reminders of how quickly fame and the fortune that comes with it can vanish. What's wild about all these stories is how similar they start. Fast rise, viral moment, big advance, and then the crash. It doesn't matter if you were a superstar like Lauryn Hill, a hit maker like T-Pain, or a one-hit wonder like Lil Pump. The cycle looks almost identical every time. The bag comes in, the houses, the cars, the chains follow, then the IRS shows up, the streams dry up, or the cops kick the door in. Suddenly the millions are gone, and the rapper who once couldn't stop flexing is scrambling to survive. And the thing is, we've only scratched the surface. There are still plenty of names who had it all and managed to blow it in spectacular fashion. Some are already legends, some are still pretending the money hasn't run out yet. And if you want me to make a video about that, comment part 3 and let me know who you want to see there. But if there's one thing hip-hop history proves, it's that the downfall always comes sooner than anyone expects. You can go from topping charts to pawning chains in the blink of an eye. The next rapper on the next list might already be burning through their last check right now. So if these two videos have taught us anything, it's this. In hip-hop, going broke isn't an exception, it's tradition. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, hit the like button, click on the cards displayed on your screen to see more awesome videos, and don't miss out on the next releases. See ya.